Yes, so a lot of things I'm about to discuss have already been told by our colleagues from Czechia and Austria. So I'm sorry if you hear things for the second time, but nonetheless, here we go. Um, Last year we started with in Flanders with an evaluation of the current leader program. Um, some conclusions that came out were that we had to re-find a healthy balance between bottom up, which is a clear leader method, which we fully support, of course, and also some level of top down. What I mean with that is that there are major policy schemes as Green Deal, Farm to Fork, Smart Villages, just to name those three. And of course, we want to be seen implemented, and those don't necessarily have to contradict each other. They might inspire each other, etc. But it's all about finding a healthy balance between those two. A second conclusion we came across was that we, our LACs, and certainly we as a managing authority needed more tools to assure innovation and quality of projects. I'm going to come back to that later on. And the third and maybe the most important conclusion from our evaluation was that we urgently have to broaden the network of potential beneficiaries and LAC members. We see that the unique number of beneficiaries has declined in the few past years. The discussion we had in the chat an hour ago certainly did not well to our beneficiaries. We have lost many smaller beneficiaries, local grassroots movements, small municipalities, because of the heaviness of the program in comparison with the resources that come with it. So that's definitely a challenge to think about. And it all starts, in my opinion, with the broadness of the LAC memberships. Uh, if we don't succeed in bringing fresh blood into our LACs, we will definitely not succeed in bringing fresh blood in our beneficiaries and in the people who are working on a daily basis to implement leader and fulfilling the European dream, as to say. So what did we do next? This might seem easy, but it isn't. We brought in some external consultancy and we asked them review the whole thing, review our whole mechanisms, the whole schemes, the procedures we have to implement leader in Belgium, not just on the project approval and execution, but also on the local development strategies as a whole. So what those consultants did in close collaboration with us and our LACs, of course, is they made some comparisons with other member states, with the Netherlands, with Germany, with France, our neighboring countries, and they did some very interesting workshops with our LAC coordinators and with us. I have to say here we are a very small member state. We only have 12 LACs, so that's not too much. So it's in practice it's not too much to make a workshop with. That makes it I know my LAC coordinators very well. Um, so what result came out of that? A new framework of procedure to judge and approve project applications, together with some additional methods to guarantee quality and innovation. And it might seem similar to what Eva presented in her presentation. There are certainly some similarities. I'm going to come back to that. But first of all, Belgium is a complex country, as some of you might know. We have a multi-layered governance structure. First of all, you can see that in the agenda of this of this thematic workshop. After my name, it says Belgium, Flanders. So we have two regions in Belgium, the Dutch-speaking part, the French-speaking part. I am from the Dutch-speaking part. So we have our own regional development program within the same member states. And underneath those regions, we have 5 provinces who are next to us a co-financing partner. So you have the EU, the European co-financing, the regional co-financing, and the provincial co-financing. So that makes that there is another layer of government who wants their buy-in and their skin in the game. They have their co-financing, so of course they want their seat at the table, and we have to honor that as much as possible. And how do we do that? It's those provincial governments who act as who facilitate the LAC operations. So as I said in the slide, the LACs operate in the lab of the provincial government. But that makes that they are members of the LACs, and most of our beneficiaries are at the same time also members of the LACs from municipalities. That's obvious, of course, but also organizations like farmers associations and some bigger institutions on a regional level also have their representatives in the LAC. So we had to question that as well. Is that still bottom up and independent? So I'm trying to make a comparison of what we did in this current program period and what we will do in the coming program period, based on the conclusions from our external review. And it all starts with, of course, the design of the local development strategies. 5-6 years ago, each LAC did that mostly on its own, with good results. That's not what I'm saying, but they were just out there doing their business without much exchange between one another, and that's something we had to look after. So now for the coming program period, we are trying to facilitate and to support our LACs more in designing the local development strategies. We use the ENRD guidances as a starting point, and we try to facilitate and support them in any way we can. Then the approval of the local development strategies. 6 years ago, that was done by the provincial governments. So there were 5 provinces, and each one of them approved the local development strategies of the LACs that were in their province. Now we're trying to do that for the whole region of Flanders, so that we have one way of reading those local development strategies and looking at them and advising them, instead of 5 different ones. We also like to broaden the judging committee, the management committee, by some independent experts like academics, so as not to make it too political. Then LAC composition, as a CPR, the European regulation said it should be minimum 50-50 public and private. In Flanders, that means the municipalities and the public governments as the public representatives, and the civil sector, some NGOs like farmers associations, etc., as the civil sector. We would very much like to broaden that with a third party, the private sector. What I mean with private is local entrepreneurs or engaged citizens, residents who would like to elaborate further on LEADER, so as to broaden the network with those grassroots movements I mentioned earlier. So if anyone has any tips on how to find those people and keep them engaged, we are very much struggling with that. So tips are very welcome. Then after the approval of the local development strategies, we go on to implementing them, and we see a very important role for the LACs in what we would call project brokery. It's what Eva said as well, and some might call it LAC animation. I consider it all as being the same thing. It's a very key role for a LAC to go and find those useful, those worthy IDs, those partners, and guide them in helping implementing the local development strategy. It has been done to some extent in this period, but we would really love to give our LACs more resources and more tools to fulfill that role. And not only by the LAC manager, but also by the LAC members. So they don't have to come only to the LAC meetings just to approve projects, but being a LAC member is a job that never ends. So to say, you as a LAC member, you are an ambassador for leader in your region, and you don't just show up to approve projects. Then there also have to be fulfill some formalities, check on eligibility, completeness of the application, etc. In this period, that has been done by the LAC manager, which was very time consuming. We're going to do that with the managing authority, just to give more time, more space, more resources to the LAC manager and his team to focus on that project brokery and not have to worry about all the necessary documents and signatures, etc. All those silly details which have to be there. Technical review and project approval. I'd like to make a clear distinction between those two, because those are two separate questions for me. Is a project a good project in terms of partnership, in terms of use of resources, in terms of partnership, etc.? And is it a good leader project? Those are not always the same question. Something might be a good project, but does not fit in the local development strategy. So those questions have to be tackled separately. And it's key to at what stage of the procedure you ask yourself those questions. So we would like to make a distinction between a technical review. Is it a good project, which is considered by the LAC with support of some external independent experts where needed, or where it may be of some use. And the question, is it a good leader project, which is the sole responsibility of the LAC, of course, because they have the ownership of their local development strategy, and they are the only ones who have the authority to judge whether a project is fit for their regional needs and fits in their local development strategy. To support this whole procedure, we have also drafted some additional tools during project approval. Some of them might also be used by other member states. I mentioned them here. If anyone can benefit from them, feel free to ask about them later. We would like to include pitching sessions for beneficiaries where they can give an elevator pitch about their project application with a LAC or with some members of the LAC to check whether they are whether their project application has some potential in it or not. If it's about an investment, about infrastructure, they can let it check by a board of architects or landscape experts, etc. And we would also like to implement micro and umbrella projects, but I think those are known to most of you. So that in a nutshell, what we are planning for the coming period and how we believe this might offer some answers to the challenges that we have discussed already in this meeting. Thank you.